Thank you, everyone, for joining us today at the Delridge Community Center. It's such a gorgeous day. The kids outside from the preschool, it's fantastic. Chief Best and I are excited to be back here in West Seattle as we announce new significant investments in public safety for communities across Seattle. One thing that we want to make sure that everyone understands, you will see a number of budget announcements in the coming weeks, but this one on public safety, I think, again reaffirms that both the chief and I are committed to a holistic approach to public safety. We have to make sure that public safety is not just about policing, it's about all the other things we need to do in a community to make that community vibrant, welcoming, and supported. One thing I learned as at first a criminal defense lawyer, then as a prosecutor, and now as mayor, is that public safety requires that kind of holistic approach. True public safety means that everyone, regardless of their background, their history, they have access to opportunity. That was spelled out for me in two different meetings I already had today. Earlier today, I met with community members to announce our 2020 budget investments in some of our intervention for criminal justice reforms and other reforms. I also met earlier today with the first Garfield class of Promise Scholars that will be going to Seattle Community College. And those two meetings, both of them were so inspiring to me. One was to meet with these college kids who most of them would not have been at college but for the commitment of our Seattle voters. Of the about 60 to 70 kids that were in the room, I would say 80% of them were kids of color. And they were there talking about their dreams and their aspirations about what they wanted to be. Everything from a music producer to a biologist to tech to not sure. And the not sure was exactly like my 18-year-old son. And then meeting with the community-based organizations who have so many great community-based programs to intervene in the life of young people, to take them so that we give them opportunity instead of incarceration. Our proposed budget this year will have over $1 million to significantly expand SPD's Community Service Officer Program. We announced it last year. We know that it's something that community believes is really important. And so we have decided to increase that even more. So we will have a total of 15 CSOs and 3 supervisors. That means 5 in addition to the ones that were approved in last year's budget, and will allow our CSOs to expand throughout the city, but importantly to be available 7 days a week, which we think is really critical. We also know that we, as I said, have to focus on alternatives to arrest and incarceration and have to get at every step of the criminal justice system, from interactions with law enforcement to diversion programs to all the things we need to do to support kids before there's any court filing. That means that we will, in this new budget, we will create a dedicated Native American community liaison with SPD. This is an historic investment and one that I really have to give great credit to Councilmember Deborah Juarez and to our chief, who said, why shouldn't we be one of the first in the nation to do this when we know we stand on Salish lands and that we have a Native community that is so underserved, but disproportionately represented in all of the programs that represent poverty in our community. So we want to make sure that we have that built right into our police department. We also know there's programs that work well, including Choose 180, a pre-filing diversion program for youth. We will be expanding and increasing our investment in that program. We also are going to invest $1 million in restorative justice because we believe that so many, particularly young people, as they go through the criminal justice system, coming out of that system, we have to remedy the trauma and the underlying things that led to their involvement. We will be rewarding $4.4 million for community-based organizations to help young people between the ages of 18 to 24 who have been impacted by the criminal justice system. We're also renewing today our commitment to community-based policing and investing in programs that help communities navigate the criminal legal system at every level. We are so lucky to have Carmen Best as our chief of police. She is so committed to continually improving her police department, to supporting the rank and file, but also gets into community and really listens to what they need. Both she and I are deeply committed to advancing these values and ensuring that all our communities feel safe, and that every individual in those communities feels safe, and that every individual knows that they can build a better future for themselves and for their family. Under her leadership, the Seattle Police Department serves as a national leader on 21st century policing. They're pretty good at lip syncing. Okay, that wasn't in the speech. The department has also made incredible strides in de-escalation, helping people in crisis, and building lasting community relations. But in conversations with the chief and with her officers, it is clear that we need to do some more. First, as Seattle grows, we must make sure that we are recruiting, hiring, and retaining the most experienced officers who are committed to real and lasting reform and who will stay on this great police department. That's how we build the best community policing in America. Second, I've heard that communities want more officers in their neighborhoods. They want more people walking the beats, knowing the businesses, knowing people in those communities, getting to know them so they truly can be the guardians of those communities and not just viewed as warriors. We also know that we have to be data-driven. So today in our 2020 budget, we will be proposing investing $1.6 million to strengthening our recruitment, speed up our hiring, and improve the retention of our police officers at the Seattle Police Department. In early 2019, Chief Best and I looked at an interdepartmental data-driven study for the recruitment, hiring, and retention of SPD officers. You'll hear from the chief. Every major city in America has this challenge, recruiting police officers and keeping police officers. So we know we've got to be smart and we've got to be better. So we got experts from SPD, our innovation and performance team, City Council, HR, and together created a recruitment and retention work group. They talked to line officers to see what was going on, what criticisms and constructive comments they could offer us. And they were candid. We asked them not to just study the challenges of staffing, but to really look, how do we recruit the officers we need, and then how do we keep them? Earlier today, Chief Best and I sent a note to every SPD officer announcing the full report from that committee, and that we will create a strategic hiring and retention plan, implement the recommendations of the committee, and a new interdepartmental working group will continue to make sure we've got it right to support recruitment, hiring, and retention strategies. We know that public safety requires listening to the public and communities throughout our year and looking at not just the data, but hearing from community what is happening in their community. As we work to hire and retain the best officers, we're also going to fulfill more so that we have a safe and vibrant community. Today, Chief Best and I can also announce that my 2020 budget will include $847,000 to continue community-based emphasis patrols in 2020. In April, based on feedback we got from community and our analysis of public safety data, SPD and other city departments began deploying additional resources and taking additional steps to improve public safety and address community maintenance needs in 7 neighborhoods. And again, it was a holistic approach because public safety means not just more officers being present to provide safety, but we had many departments there to do everything from clean up parks to make sure light bulbs were working, to clean back shrubberies, to take down graffiti, to activate parks. These emphasis programs have meant more officers on bikes and foot, and have also seen an effective in increasing visibility and reducing our 911 calls. Our emphasis patrols have also reduced regular SPD and City of Seattle operations, including police patrols, criminal investigations, gun violence prevention efforts, and operations to combat gang violence. The chief and I will continue to closely monitor this to make sure that we are getting the most impact out of these resources. The chief, as she will tell you, meets regularly with her command staff and hears from every precinct and knows exactly what is happening in this city. And we meet on a regular basis, and I will tell you that this chief knows what's happening in her city. There's decades-long strategy in Seattle. We know what works. We just need to do it right. I also want to say that I am very grateful for SPD officers, both sworn and civilian staff, and all the city employees who are working to make our communities safer. I want to thank Chief Best, her command staff, and all the officers for everything they do to make our city safer and better. We will continue to advance public safety through data-driven, proactive strategies, and we will continue to invest in programs that help communities navigate the criminal legal system at every level. We know that public safety must be holistic. We must have a real holistic effort. I will formally present my budget on September 23rd and look forward to working with council to make these investments a reality for Seattle. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to the chief lip syncer. I mean, the chief of police, Chief Best.
Well, good afternoon. I have to start by first thanking you. My sincere and heartfelt appreciation and thanks to Mayor Durkan for her continuing support. It has meant so much to us. You know, as soon as we knew in the police department that our staffing situation was becoming a crisis, the mayor directed her team to help us to make significant investments and initiatives in the police department. Some of those folks are here right now: Tina Walla, Catherine Eisenberg, my own executive director of human resources, Mike Fields, and many others met and began working on this very challenging effort. The men and the women of the Seattle Police Department perform incredible work every single day. This year alone, officers have responded to over 350,000 calls for service. And they have driven crime down in almost every single area of the city. The challenge that we have of hiring and retention is a national one in policing, as the mayor mentioned earlier. Here in Seattle, we are so very fortunate that when the crisis became apparent, the mayor launched immediately into the innovation team and put them into action. The innovation team worked with the Seattle Police Department to gain employee insights, which varied from having better schedules, higher quality uniforms, to a streamlined and modernized hiring process. One thing the team heard, loud and clear, that this city and its elected officials need to make it better known that we support the men and women of the Seattle Police Department. You know, we can have accountability and make sure we hold people accountable and still appreciate the hard work that goes on every single day in the city by the men and women in this department, both sworn and civilian. Last year, the Seattle Police Department ended the year with fewer officers than we started with, and we simply cannot have that. Many of these separations were younger, fully trained officers who left to go to other police departments. And some of these officers were some of our best officers. So we're going to work hard to make sure that we keep those officers here. This is a great organization, a department that is worthy and worth the love and commitment of the officers who work here. By implementing the recommendations from the work group, we hope to increase the number of potential applicants by making it clear why the Seattle Police Department is a great place to work, and increase the flexibility and the speed of our hiring process. I've been here almost 30 years, and I can't think of a more fulfilling and rewarding career than I've had to work for the Seattle Police Department. I wear this uniform with honor and with pride every single day. Recruiting, like police work, is a team sport, and we need to leverage the expertise and the experience and the connection to communities we serve if we are to build and expand our department, and it needs to reflect the community that we serve, which is one of the reasons I'm so proud of our command staff. It's diverse and experienced and represents this community well. This report recommends creating a better schedule that enhances officer wellness and provides a better work-life hours of work for officers to use. Additionally, we are looking at ways to more directly connect department leadership and elected officials to the officers in patrol. Their physical presence, that means they're going to be there while the officers are working, and they'll be experiencing what the officers are experiencing. The officers will know that we're committed to knowing how their work is. It's very, very important to them. We also want to ensure there is internal procedural justice for employees. If our oversight and discipline systems are to be respected, they have to be fair and they have to be transparent. It's hard for employees to trust the department if we're not making sure that happens, and we're going to make sure that happens as well. The work group recommendations are a strong starting point for us, but there is so much work to be done. I'm going to bring up Assistant Chief Eric Greening to talk to you about the emphasis patrols, but I want to close out by saying there is no greater and more honorable profession than the profession of law enforcement. I sincerely appreciate and thank the mayor for her support, continued support, and all of her staff. They have been wonderful to us, and we appreciate them very much. Now, Assistant Chief Eric Greening.
Thanks, Chief Best, Mayor Durkan. We said before that emphasis patrols are an integral part of our police deployment strategy. These patrols give us flexibility we need to address emerging crime trends while still providing core 911 services to Seattle residents and businesses. Whenever possible, we field our patrols on foot or bike. The increased visibility has been noticed and appreciated in neighborhoods that have been served. In some cases, our goal is to work with other city agencies and to provide enhanced police and city services to neighborhoods identified by our data. In other cases, we have focused our efforts on arresting people responsible for committing gun violence. Our ultimate goal is to promote safe, healthy neighborhoods by reducing crime and disorder with police resources that are above and beyond our baseline service expectations. We will be judicious with the funds allotted to us, utilizing CSTAT principles. We subject our efforts to constant evaluation, and we reserve the right to shift these resources to other neighborhoods as public safety needs arise. Thank you.
Chief or I or any others will take some questions here. I just want to emphasize again what the chief said. Sometimes unheralded is just the amazing work the Seattle Police Department has been doing. And it shows up in so many ways. We had an unprecedented number of crisis calls where police officers were required to intervene with someone in significant crisis, and the number of times that ended up in a bad situation or force being used was very small. A huge change from when we started the consent decree. I also want to say is they are just crushing it on their investigations right now. They have solved a number of significant crimes. And I just want to, Chief, for you and everyone else, we notice, we're thankful that you're doing it, from shootings to robberies. Our detectives are working double time. They're using some creative techniques, and they really are doing a good job for the people of the city of Seattle. So I want to thank them for all their work. With that, if anyone has any questions for the Chief or I?
Question for the Chief. Regarding, well, we're in West Seattle, so given the whole package of things, how does that roll out for Southwest Precinct?
Well, all precincts will be equally, given resources to assist us in all of our efforts. Clearly, having more officers helps every single precinct that we have. So that's one of the things we're trying to do, make sure that we're recruiting, that we're having all the things in place that we need to have and to retain the officers that we have.
And I'll just add one thing to that is, one of the original emphasis patrols was in South Park. That was based on community requests and input. We're going to go back. We keep talking to the community. But there's a perfect example. We've got some people here from the Duwamish Valley Youth Corps. We have to be doing this on a holistic basis. And getting youth involved in positive things is one of the key things we do that really contributes to public safety for the whole community.
Do you have a target number of new hires or a time frame on it?
We do. Do you want to address that, Chief?
Yeah, actually, I'm going to have Mike come up and talk about it. I'm not passing the buck. Mike he's on our executive team. He is the executive director of human resources. He was part of the I-team. He has been working diligently from the beginning because the buck stops with him on that piece of it, for me anyway.
Boss
so
has
we're
made that
working on
very
it.
clear.
Yes, yes.
I think the real answer is we're going to be aggressively hiring all the quality folks that represent the city that we serve. This year to date, as of the end of August, things are trending in the right direction. Putting a hard number on it going forward, we're just going to be in an aggressive hiring mode, and right now is a great time to join the department.
What are current staffing levels? If you could provide a number of how many people are on staff right now at SPD?
Sure, there's a number of ways to look at that. How many people we have in the academy, how many people we have fully trained, how many are in field training. The best way to do that is via a table, because there's lots and lots of information. Happy to get that to you.
Regarding the recruitment and retention policies that are being rolled out, I haven't actually gone through them. I see there's a number of them. One of the criticisms I heard from the Guild was that there's nothing in there that sets Seattle apart from what other cities are already doing. The signing bonuses are done elsewhere, new uniforms, 410s. It was brought up that very expensive option would have been to provide medical coverage past retirement, and that didn't survive. But what would you guys point to as being policies that set Seattle apart? Sure.
Fundamentally, we need to be competitive on wages, and we've done that with our recent Guild contract. We've done that with our entry-level and lateral incentives, but that just brings us sort of up to the competitive market in the region. What we really need to do, and some of these recommendations will build on that, is distinguish us as an employer of choice with incredible opportunities to do meaningful work in a diverse city. And we will be moving forward with a number of initiatives that distinguish ourselves in that way.
And the other piece of that I would say too is that we've been listening. This isn't something that just dropped out of the sky. And we have dedicated resources with the mayor's leadership to go out to every single precinct, talk to the officers. What is it you need? How can we help you? What is going to keep you here at this organization? We've worked really, really hard. My hat's off to the I-team and to everyone else, dedicated professionals who pulled together all of that information. No one else did that, not the union, not anyone else. That was between our mayor and our management, worked really hard to make sure that we reached out to those officers, because we're going to make sure that we make the work environment for the Seattle Police Department where these officers stay.
The new spending, what is the total proposed spending you'll be proposing later this month? And does it require does it require you raising new revenues?
No, there'll be no new revenues. We'll be sending down to fund any of the public safety. There may be other revenues that are related to other programs. But the general fund budget, I can't remember the total amount, but it'll be similar to last year, about north of $1 billion. And the funding levels for most of the programs were adopted last year. Remember, we do a 2-year budget cycle. One is called the adopted, that was last year's, and then 2020 was endorsed. And so we use that as the baseline for the budget going forward for all of our programs.
De-emphasis patrols, more money for that. Is that just to continue the programs in the 7 neighborhoods? Will you be adding like West Seattle to it?
We're going to be looking, like we always do, is yes, it's money that is dedicated to that. Last year we were able to use available resources that we had, but we saw such good results from these patrols. And really the number one thing I heard from communities throughout Seattle was, why didn't we get one? And what we're trying to do is really make that decision based upon both community input and the data and where we actually need it. And the police, it's a long established protocol the police use for emphasis. Sometimes it's geographically based, which our emphasis patrols are, but sometimes it's types of crimes like our gang units and gang patrols. Sometimes it's, the nightlife patrols. So depending on what the situation is in the city and where it is, that emphasis will vary.
How about morale? Any policies to boost morale? Any changes with the OPA? Or?
We're trying to be a very holistic. The first thing was to listen, right? To ask people what's going to make a difference. That's what this report, and that's what some of you have seen, the input, the very honest input we got back from officers, and then to do some of the things they said they needed. The number one thing I heard from the chief was the troops need to know they're appreciated. They need to know that we understand their job matters. And I will tell you that a lot has been said about, the consent decree and reform. We have moved this police department, and it has remade itself because of the hard work of the Seattle Police Department and the community together. And if you look at the statistics as to when we started this consent decree till today, it is a completely different department. And for almost 4.5 years, those police officers showed up every day and did everything we asked of them in their jobs and under the consent decree without a contract and without being paid current wages. That showed their level of dedication to this city. And I think we have to recognize it, we have to reward it, and we have to make sure everyone in the community understands that when those police officers put on their uniform, or if they're detectives in their plain clothes going to work to solve these crimes, they're doing everything they can to make this city safer. And as mayor, I'm very, very grateful for that.
We understand that, SPD is aggressively looking for officers to hire.
You can sign up at the door.
And obviously there may not be a magical target number, but at this point, based on funding, could you share with us, are you looking for dozens of new officers, 100? Is there a ballpark number you can provide of how many candidates, right candidates, that the city of Seattle is looking for?
Yeah, and then I'll follow up. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're looking to hire over 100 officers this year. We did that in 2017 and 2018, so somewhere in the low hundreds would be the target for this year.
And then if we're able to retain more, that will help. Look, we're a growing city. I mean, think about how this city has grown by over 100,000 people in the last short years, and yet our fire department, police department staffing levels have remained relatively constant. And so in order to have the level of public safety we need in this city, we know we need more officers, we need more support. We also need to look at our fire department resources because we want to make sure when someone dials 911, fire or cops show up when you need them. Thank you very much for your time.